But I
So,
do know this,
uh-huh.
17 temples announced.
Wait. We're not gonna get to that story yet. We're still gonna talk about your
Oh.
predictions.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Oh, because we made predictions.
Yeah.
Did any of them happen?
Mornings are better with a warm beverage, even for Latter-day Saints. Meet Postum, the ideal coffee alternative and proud sponsor of This Week in Mormons podcast. Spotted on the coffee aisle at Smith's Grocery or at your local nearby store. Can't locate it? No worries. Order it at postum.com. Explore delicious recipes to tailor your Postum experience. Start your day off right with Postum.
Hello and welcome everybody to This Week in Mormons. This is a twin sibling edition with your hosts Matt and Melissa.
Yeah, it is. Hi, Matt. How's it going?
Things are going great. I'm having
That's
so
so
much
good.
fun. Did you know I live in Rexburg and it's close to 80 degrees today? It's like
Wow.
I know it's like summer has extended itself into the fall in
I
Rexburg.
know. I
Normally
love it.
it's like snowy and cold and windy and freezing, but
Yeah.
not so this year.
I'm tired of all the people who are like, oh, I'm ready for fall. I'm like, no, when summer gives you a golden extra month, you take it. You take it.
You can wear your warm clothes if you want. Nobody
Yeah,
cares.
fine.
Hey, Melissa, did you know that next week I'm going to Germany?
Oh, you are? I had
Yeah.
forgotten about that. But yeah, that's exciting. Tell me more.
Well, I became a grandfather, and
Yeah.
they're going to bless the baby in
Oh,
Germany. So we're going to head out to Germany. Mom's coming with,
okay.
and we're going to fly out and go to the baby blessing and look at castles. I think that's mostly what we do. We go see all the castles.
Yeah. That's why I'm not like a Europe type tourist. When everybody's like, oh, I'm going to save and go to Europe, I'm like, why would you go on vacation somewhere where you just walk around and look at things? I don't
You don't
understand.
want to see castles and old churches?
Don't care about history. Don't care. Not interested.
I'm
Mm-mm.
actually going to go to a church in Cologne. Now, you'll have to tell me if you believe this is true.
Okay.
They have the bones of the three wise men in this church in Cologne.
Do they? Okay.
And so you can go see the bones of the three wise men.
Again, why would you? Even if it is true, you could be hiking a rainforest somewhere, but you're sitting in an old church looking at bones. I don't get it.
You don't appreciate history, Melissa.
Not even a little bit.
All
It's
right.
sad. But I'm
Well,
excited for you. I hope that you have a really fun trip.
hmm
Yeah.
I'll let you know if I am able to touch the bones and if I'm able to like
They're not going to
sense
let
it.
you touch the bones.
I know. They keep these. I went to the church with St. Peter's bones. They didn't let me even get close to them. I went to the church with St. Mark's bones. Wait, have I told you this story?
No.
Okay, so in Venice, there is, I think it's called a cathedral. It's St. Mark's Cathedral. And it's called St. Mark's because they have St. Mark's bones. And there's a whole story about how they
St. Mark
got.
from the Bible, like
Yeah.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, that Mark.
Uh huh.
I'm trying to act interested, but I'm already bored. Go on.
No, this is it gets better.
Okay.
Okay, so they're building this whole church to have a place to store St. Mark's bones. And then as they finished building the church, apparently they forgot where they had placed the bones. And so they had a prayer and said, Heavenly Father, please guide us to the bones. And so as you go to see St. Mark's bones, there's like a mosaic up on the ceiling. It's all made of tiles and stuff. And it depicts the scene where they're praying to find St. Mark's bones and God leads them to the bones. And so it's like,
Wow.
yeah, it was so
But
momentous.
they could be anybody's bones. God could have answered the prayer, but also they could have found random bones and they're calling them St. Mark's. Who actually knows?
I don't know, but I just think it's fun. Like sometimes I lose my car keys and I pray to have help finding them, and it never occurs to me I should build a mosaic on the ceiling
Yes,
depicting the time.
you're
But
right.
yeah, see, that's kind of fun.
That's super
Hey,
fun.
we have some listener comments that I'd like to read. These are
Great.
all from our YouTube channel. So thank
Okay.
you to our YouTube listeners who made comments. So Katie17330 writes, "Growing old is not a bad thing!"
That's right.
Exclamation point. You agree?
Oh, of course. Growing old is
Oh, okay.
the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Come on. The
Matt,
best.
I love this stage of life. It's fantastic. Remember when you were a teenager and there was so much drama and anxiety and stress?
Yes.
That's not good. Remember having young kids? That is the worst stage of life. Raising young children, oh, that's the worst. Growing old is the best. It's
Okay.
fantastic.
Well,
Yeah.
you and Katie 17330 should get together and have a party.
Okay.
She also said, I do have a family member who was vaccinated specifically because President Nelson encouraged it. They would likely vote for Kamala Harris if he told people to, though begrudgingly. However, I agree that's not common and they are in a very small minority.
Okay. Yeah, this is in response to your thought that would people actually do what the prophet says anyway?
Yeah. Do you know what? I
What?
was actually going through that paper that I remember how I told you there was this paper about vaccination rates?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm working on it with a former student and I haven't read it in like a year. So yesterday, literally yesterday, I was going through the paper trying to get it ready to send off for publication. And then I was like, wait a minute. This says the exact opposite of what I thought
I
it said.
knew it. You read the results wrong.
I
You
did.
inaccurately quoted statistics. So what is the right analysis?
Members of the church did get vaccinated when President Nelson told them to.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
what I thought.
you were
I
right.
mean, there was a few that didn't, but yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got vaccinated even though I didn't want to, and I labeled it under because President Nelson said so, but it was really under I have a trip planned to Cancun and I can't go unless I'm vaccinated. But I still followed the prophet.
Whatever gets you there, right? As long as you're
Exactly.
following the prophet.
Exactly.
We'll let Heavenly Father sort out the best motivations for doing things. The important thing is just that we follow the prophet,
Okay.
whatever our motive. Okay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then there's another. Okay, so we had talked about people getting offended at something that President Holland had said, that he didn't apologize or something like
Uh-huh.
that.
Mhm.
And Susan Holder, 3944, wrote in and she said, people choose to be offended.
Yes. Well, some people get offended at people who say that people get choose to be offended. Some people find that to be a very offensive statement, but then you gotta flip back to the
But
original statement.
that really was your point, though, that like it's not on President Holland to make sure people don't feel offended.
Well, I never feel that way about life. I feel that you get to choose your own feelings and you get to have your thoughts that create those feelings. And hey, for anybody who wants validation for my opinion, you should listen to our interview we did with Jody Moore. It was really good.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, listen to that. Okay, we're going to get to quick clips, Melissa. We're going to do
Okay,
a
good.
real quick general conference recap.
Okay, did you watch conference? How, where, what'd
I
you
did.
do?
We were at home and I watched all of the sessions. I missed about an hour of the Saturday afternoon session. But other
Okay.
than that, I watched every second of every session and didn't even fall asleep.
Wow.
On Sunday, I took a nap between sessions so that I wouldn't fall asleep in the last session like I normally do.
Uh-huh.
So I caught everything almost in general
Good
conference.
job, Matt. You're a
Mhm.
stellar saint. Yeah.
I really, really like General Conference. I
Yeah.
don't like, you know how when you don't watch General Conference, there's all these news stories that give you recaps of talks.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't like hearing recaps of things before I see it myself.
Yeah,
And
that
so I
makes
like
sense.
to just watch it. And then also, I love not having to get dressed up for church. So
Yeah.
I intentionally just stay in my pajamas the whole day and watch conference.
Well, that's nice. There's a really nice piece on the church news where they show pictures of saints around the world watching conference from where they watch it from their homes or from churches. And the pictures are actually really, really good. So I think if you're interested, take a look at that on the church news. Now, I personally watched General Conference. I haven't yet. Well, I did take General Conference weekend to go out on the boat. It was a great weekend with my family, and there was no service of light
Oh, yeah.
or anything like that. But it's okay because I'm listening to conference the way I prefer, which is one talk at a time. So
Yeah, it's
each
okay.
hour chunk, I kind of get, I don't know, I days off and stuff like that. So I'm about halfway through conference going one talk at a time. But I
So,
do know this
uh-huh.
17 temples announced.
Wait. We're not gonna get to that story yet. We're still gonna talk about your
Oh,
predictions.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Oh, because we made predictions.
Yeah.
Did any of them happen?
So I predicted I
Huh.
predicted that nobody in the first presidency would conduct a general conference.
Oh, yeah. You were wrong.
I know. And did you know there's one of our listeners that like actually has the power. He could have changed it and made me right, and he
Oh,
chose. He chose to follow the first presidency instead of making my prediction come true.
Hmm.
Which I suppose
So
that's good for our listeners to
you're
act
not
that way.
holding hate against him. Your
No.
heart is still filled with love. Okay, well, I didn't watch it. So did they conduct sitting down?
President Eyring was sitting down when he conducted, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And President Oaks conducted, but President Nelson did not conduct. And
And
he
I
gave his
heard
talk
that
sitting down.
President Nelson watched from home on Saturday. Is that right?
I heard that he was at the Saturday afternoon session,
Okay. Yeah,
and then he was at Sunday afternoon.
right, but he wasn't there for the Saturday morning session.
No, or Saturday evening or Sunday morning.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that?
I think that he's getting older. I think that, yeah, this isn't new, right? We've seen this before where president.
Well, we've seen it when he has said, like, when we know that he's had an actual injury or an actual illness, but I don't know that we've seen it just because of like he's getting old.
Well, I didn't mean with President Nelson specifically. We've seen it with
Oh,
other
okay.
presidents of the church where they're
Okay.
too
Yeah.
old to come.
Yeah. 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 Okay.
Yeah.
Now, can I talk about temples?
Okay, talk
Okay.
about
What other
temples.
predictions? I don't even remember what I predicted, honestly.
You predicted 50 temples, so that's why we should
I
talk
did
about temples.
not predict 50. I did
You
predict a
got some
lot.
of them right. Of all of your predictions, I think maybe 2 were right.
That's good.
Did you predict Price, Utah?
No, but I did predict Fillmore, Utah,
Nope, not
and
Fillmore. Did you
and
predict something in Italy or in Ireland?
no,
Yeah.
I didn't. Okay,
None
so
of none
I
of my
didn't do that good.
predictions were right.
Look, there's one in Colombia, which I predicted 2 conferences ago.
Okay. All right, that
Okay,
counts.
and there's one in Arizona, which I don't remember predicting that exact place in Arizona, but close enough.
What
Close
place is
enough.
it in Arizona?
Queen Creek, so I think it's
Um,
near Phoenix.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think I actually got any right. I think Tiffany of the twin sisters, I think she got this Coeur d'Alene, Idaho one right because she was saying something like between Boise and Oregon. I don't know if
Yeah, but
that's the
that's not
exact
Coeur
place.
d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene is north. It's almost in Spokane.
Okay,
But she said
so
Idaho, and there's one in Idaho, so we'll give it to her.
okay, yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
yeah.
I said Rigby, Idaho. Will you give it to me?
Yeah, I'll give that one to you also. Coeur
Okay,
d'Alene
thanks.
and Rigby,
Rigby,
why
they're the
not?
same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I failed massively. How did you do?
Oh, I got none of them right. I never get any of them right.
Okay.
But you know what? I still had there's this YouTube channel I watch where they're always predicting the second coming, and
Yes,
they
of course you watch that YouTube channel. You probably have it
and they
playing nonstop.
they have not stopped predicting the second coming. So I'm feeling okay because they're still waiting on the second
If you
coming.
predicted every day, one of the days, you're going to be right.
But President Nelson did speak about the. I don't want to spoiler alert, Melissa.
Okay.
President Nelson does speak about the second coming, and Elder Bednar spoke about like the Book of Mormon as helping us prepare for the second coming. So there are lots of little nuggets in General Conference. If you're looking for second coming predictions, there's
Okay.
lots of content you can look for.
Okay.
But
All
listen,
right.
my predictions are always wrong. I'm never right. This is because everybody should know this about me. I don't make predictions based on any inside information or
Mm-mm.
inspiration or revelation. There's just
Just for fun.
just a feeling that I have like
Oh, you just have a feeling. Me, I
like
just like to be audacious, Like, let's just shoot for the stars.
I want one in Ketchikan. I really want one. They had a mudslide there and I feel like they could use a temple, and so I want one in
Ketchikan is where?
Alaska.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
so I'm going to predict one in Ketchikan even though it's very unlikely.
Okay. Well,
All
good
right.
job, us.
Hey, so another thing in General Conference, there was an unforgettable moment from the children's choir that everybody is talking about.
Go on.
Okay, so the Saturday afternoon session, the choir is all primary children and they're all in their white clothes and they're doing one of their songs was a medley of primary songs. And then
Uh-huh.
one time they start singing this Gethsemane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's in the new hymn book.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's in the new hymn book. It's one of the new songs. Slash, I only like that song when it's sung by children. I really don't like
Uh-huh.
it as a congregational hymn. But unpause, go on with your story.
Well, so anyhow, at one moment, the organ stops and they all sang this line a cappella, which
Oh,
generally primary kids aren't great at. And so
yeah.
it was very touching for a lot of people that these young primary kids sang this part of the song a cappella, powerfully, spiritually. Do you want to know my favorite moment? Sorry if listeners
Yeah.
wanted to dwell on that more. My favorite
Yeah.
moment in General Conference is there is a couple serving a senior mission, and Saturday evening session they had a missionary choir, and so we're like looking at the missionaries having fun, and then I was like, wait a minute, that's Brother Pack and Sister Pack from our ward that are serving a mission in Salt
Oh,
Lake City. They were in the choir.
that's always fun when you
Yeah,
recognize somebody.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that's
super
cool.
cool.
Yeah. Well, and what did you think about we did this, this isn't the first time we've done it, but having the singers in the tabernacle choir from the other nations across the world?
Yeah, I just can't tell the difference. I don't know choir members well enough to know that
Yeah,
it's
no,
new
I just
people.
think it's a neat experience for other saints to be able to have. So I'm
Oh
glad
yeah,
that we're continuing to do that.
yeah, okay, yeah, I like that.
Okay. Any other conference news?
That's all I have for General Conference, Melissa.
Okay, I'm going to move on then.
Okay.
There's been some lawsuits against the church and against the managers of the church's money from people who would like the money that they paid in tithing refunded to them.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
sorry. I shouldn't laugh. Yes,
there's
yes.
there's a
Very
couple of
serious.
them. Yeah, there's a couple of them. The one that's getting a lot of attention right now, it's class action. So I think there's like 5 or 6 people involved in it. And it's basically a fraud case, like saying that the church committed fraud. So that's been going through the channels. Basically, the news right now is that the church kind of got a mini win because the judge in that case has decided to delay discovery in the lawsuit. He wants some time to decide if the lawsuit should just be dismissed. So the case has been put on hold. Judge says, I'm going to do some thinking about it. And at the end of December, I'll hear a few arguments and then we'll decide if the case should just be dismissed. So that's the
Sometimes
update
it's
there.
sometimes it's the mini victories that count the most, Melissa.
Is it? Okay.
I don't know. I
Okay.
wonder I wonder if the church is going to get like 1 million people to go and testify and say, "Nobody told me that I had a say in how my tithing dollars were spent.
Well,
I don't feel defrauded in how they spent my tithing. Like nobody ever asked me how I thought
yeah.
tithing should be spent."
But also, I mean, one of these people is suing for something like $5 million or something. But
Mm.
also, like, would it hurt the church to just be like, okay, you five, you want your tithing back? You got your tithing back. And you know what else you got back? All of those blessings. You don't have those anymore. You no longer have the blessings of tithing, but here's your money. Do you like
You're
that?
like, yeah, it's like you have to sign this contract that
Yeah.
says I don't want any of those blessings. Heavenly Father can take them back.
I want the money more.
This
Yeah.
would be a very good LDS themed film. Garrett Batty, if you're listening,
Oh.
think about this for your next movie because there could be lots of antics that come along with getting your tithing dollars
It's
back.
kind of like a hijinks movie, huh? Okay.
All
Oh
right, my
gosh.
story is that
Okay.
the first presidency has announced a simplified temple dedication procedure for the Deseret Peak Temple. Um,
Okay.
you know how they
That's
used to
for
do
all
cult?
temples. All
Yeah,
temples on going forth, right?
it sounds that way, although it's not necessarily framed specifically that way. But
Okay.
you can't fit everybody into the celestial room for the dedication, so you're going to have some people that are watching it at home with just a few people. They used to have like many different dedicatory sessions, and they're just going to
Mhm.
have one dedicatory session. They used to have like a cultural celebration and all that. They're not
Oh,
doing
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
going forward, the a temple dedication will be a huge deal spiritually, but it won't be as big of a production as it has been in the past.
Okay. I actually think that's appropriate. I always I don't know. I thought it was weird the cultural celebration. I like the idea of getting the community excited about a temple, but it did seem like a lot of money and time and hoopla without all of the spiritual benefit, if that makes sense.
No, I get it, but I'm going to tell you, my oldest son, if you ask him to share his testimony,
Mhm.
there's a 90% chance he's going to share a story from the cultural celebration for the Kansas City temple dedication. Because
Okay.
there was like this thing that happened when like they were practicing and the power went out. I don't remember all the details now, but someone
Mhm.
did share it in general conference.
Mhm.
And for my son, like that cultural celebration, having President Monson come in and wave at them during the cultural celebration, Like for him, that was like a foundational moment in the shaping of his testimony.
Oh, okay, interesting. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is actually very spiritual. I've only been on it from the end of a youth leader who's in charge of organizing all of the stuff that went into it. And to me, it was overwhelming and exhausting. And I didn't really know if there was a spiritual benefit. But at any rate, yeah, so that's what's going to happen with the Desert Peak Temple. The Desert Peak Temple is going to be the 200th temple officially dedicated when that happens. And they have an open house if you haven't been out to see it and you have time to do that. It goes for about another week through October 19th.
I had to Google where is the Deseret Peak Temple. Do you
Yeah,
know
and
where it
where is
is?
it? I think it's in Tooele.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why don't they just call it Tooele? Were they like, this would be the one temple that nobody could pronounce if we spelled it Tooele?
Yeah,
Then
I don't
people would be
know.
like, yeah. There's
Um,
nothing about that peak that's Deseret. Is that the desert? I don't know. Like, I don't know where the
hmm.
name came from.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
You're
Okay.
welcome. At least I didn't make up a guess.
Okay.
Okay.
So you may have heard that there's some hurricanes happening in the United
Mm.
States.
Yeah, I've heard that. It's been pretty dramatic. Yeah.
Yeah. So is it Hurricane Helen or Helene? I don't know how to say it.
Helene.
Okay.
Helene. Yeah.
Hurricane Helene. As always, members of the church are out helping with the cleanup of Hurricane Helene. We put a link to a video of that's a very touching video of members of the church helping, and more than 6,000 Latter-day Saints have helped clean up after Hurricane Helene. This is newsworthy because that's a lot of people helping out. But it's
Hmm.
also not newsworthy because I know that my friends in Florida do this every single time there's a hurricane.
Yeah. Well, the number's going to grow. I think another part of this story that hasn't been covered is that I'm sure the church is putting in a lot of humanitarian dollars for the relief efforts too.
Hmm.
And
Always.
sometimes, things happen. You worry about people that live there. You feel, I don't know, you just feel a lot of sadness over these kind of big things that happen. And I would not really be able to go out there and help, to leave my job and to leave my family and to go out there and help. But I do really appreciate knowing that the fast offerings that I'm offering and humanitarian aid that I'm able to donate sometimes is able to be helpful in these situations. I think the church does a really good job of managing that money, but then also being there and being able to provide help. I find
Yeah.
comfort in that. Yeah.
Sometimes we want to do service projects, and so we try and think of like what are things we can do. And we live in communities where there's not huge needs. But
Mm,
I'm telling you, like, because when I lived in Kansas, there would be tornadoes that would hit, and people would need help. There would be flooding that would happen sometimes. My friends that live in areas with hurricanes, like members of the church in areas with natural disasters, provide a lot of service. Like
yeah.
just like aside from the money that the church is giving, they just like go out with their chainsaws and start cutting down like downed trees and stuff and help people rebuild their homes and clean out their basements and all of that stuff. Like
Yeah.
members of our church do some hardcore service helping people.
They do. I mean, a lot of people do, even if they're not members of our church. Something that I like that our church does, I don't know if you've ever been in this situation, but I know a couple of years ago when we had a really major snowstorm, our bishop canceled church. He said,
Mhm.
spend Sunday going out and helping your neighbors and making sure that they're safe, clearing off their roofs if that needs to be done. I like to see that kind of service too.
You know, that reminded me of that year where we had all of that snow. I was so thankful to live in an apartment where they shoveled the snow for me because I didn't have to do anything. I could just look around and say, wow, that's a lot of snow. But I didn't have to do anything about it.
You're so
It was
blessed,
fun.
Matt. Okay, our next story, BYU, as we covered a few months ago, is planning to begin a medical school. And this week they announced who the dean of that medical school is going to be. His name is Dr. Mark Ott. He has a lot of history with impressive schools like Johns Hopkins and Harvard and Stanford. He has connections with University of Utah and with Intermountain Health. And so he's going to be, a very capable leader. And
Wow.
according to the church, he's also going to be able to meet the spiritual needs of the students. So, Brother
Wow.
Ott.
Wow, good for him. I can't even imagine the kind of undertaking that is to start a medical school from scratch.
Hmm.
I hope he's excited for the job.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that if we were to interview him, maybe we'll try and interview him.
Okay. Yeah.
He would
Let's
say
do.
that he felt like the Lord asked him to do it, right? I bet he feels called to do it. not like, hey, this is the next stepping stone in my professional career.
Sure, probably.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but it's not a calling. Like the president of
No,
BYU
no,
is a
no.
calling, right?
Sure, but Kim
But
Clark, when
not
he
a
left,
dean.
right? It's not a it's a job, right?
Yeah.
But Kim Clark, when he left Harvard, he was the dean of Harvard Business School, and then he
Mhm.
came out to BYU Idaho, and people were like, "Why?" Like his other friend was the president of Harvard University, right? Like the next step of dean of the business school is not let's go to Idaho and head up
Right.
BYU Idaho.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he would tell
Okay.
people like he felt like the Lord was asking him to do that. That's why he chose to do it, not because.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, get him on the line for us. We'll give him an interview.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
Okay.
Okay, so these are two stories about vandalism. So in North Carolina, a woman was arrested after burning a bush at a Latter-day Saint chapel.
Okay.
And in St. George, some vandals struck an LDS chapel.
Okay.
We have
It
these every time we talk, some story of
yeah,
vandalism of a church building.
I have a theory, okay? It's either somebody that's maybe elderly, but maybe with a mental health issue,
Hmm.
or it's teenagers trying to have a good time,
You don't
right?
think it's hate groups that are like, we hate you?
There's so much more damage you could do if you were a hate group than targeting a single chapel. I
Yeah.
just don't. I don't think that's what it is. But yeah, these pop
Well,
up.
well, good. Based on those stories, you're right because that's what the stories say it was.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
it's
Okay.
not hate groups, but
Okay.
all the things we could say if it was a hate group.
Okay, okay. Last quick clip is that the church has bought some more farmland. They paid $289 million for 46 farms across 8 states.
Wow.
We've been hearing a lot about purchases like this. Matt, why do you think the church is buying farmland?
The church uses these farms to produce goods for the church storehouses. They
They
give it,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, they definitely do. But that's a lot of acreage.
Yeah, so I actually one of my students grew up on one of these farms, one of these cattle farms,
Interesting.
and her parents and their family and stuff work on these farms in like Kansas and Nebraska. I think that they at one point worked on one of the farms in Florida. So
Okay.
there's like this weird sort of like tension because there are a lot of Americans that are upset that family farms are going away, that all of these individual farmers are selling their land, selling their farms to these corporations, and
Mhm.
then they farm for the corporation and they no
Okay.
longer own their land and all of that sort of stuff. And
Okay,
so
but
some
they
people.
also no longer have the risk associated with it, right? Like,
Mhm.
farming's a very risky and
Yeah,
business. Yeah.
right. And then there are a lot of corporations that say, I want to buy up all these farms so that I can get government assistance that they used to give
Hmm,
to farmers. It's like if you have a farm, there's farm aid that you can get. And so corporations will, I don't think that either of those scenarios applies to the church. I really
okay.
think that the church purchases farms because they feel an obligation to produce food for members of
Mhm.
the church who are in need. And as far as I can tell, all of the farming that they do goes to the church, like the church storehouses.
Storehouse. Interesting. Okay,
Hmm.
well, good. Okay,
Yeah, but they're like the largest landowner in the state of Nebraska.
and
And
Florida.
I don't know if you saw this story, but in Orlando, the church is trying to get, they have land in Orlando. Now, this is a different situation, but they have land
Okay.
in Orlando, like the outskirts of Orlando, that they want to develop into housing units as an investment. But there are these regulations if you're not in the city of Orlando that are expensive. And so the church is trying to get the city of Orlando to take over a whole bunch of their land that the church owns and incorporate it into the city of Orlando so that they can develop the land as
Hmm,
like real estate investments. So that's a different situation. So there are times that the church will like purchase land and develop it and sell it as an investment. I know that they did this
okay.
around Liberty, the Liberty Jail in Liberty, Missouri. They owned a lot of that land and developed it into nice homes and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the farming, I think, is different.
Cool.
Okay, Melissa, it's time for famous Mormons.
Yes, the game I lose every time.
You're
Famous
gonna
Mormons.
you're gonna lose it
Who
this
of
time
these
too.
people is Mormon or used to be Mormon or is related to a Mormon or is somehow Mormon adjacent? Give it to me.
Okay, so because the election is coming up and
It is.
we will not record again until the election is over.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna do a little parenthetical pause here. Please.
Matt, did you literally just say parenthetical pause?
Yeah. Is that a weird
Wow. Are you lecturing or okay,
Okay.
sorry.
The pause is now over. We filled the
Okay.
parentheses with Melissa's mocking tone.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
So these are three politicians. They're no longer senators. Well, one of them is currently a senator, but they're retiring or retired members of the US Senate, and they've
Okay.
been faithful Democrats their entire political life.
Okay.
And the question is, which
So
of
none of
these
them could be Mormon if they're Democrats, right? Just kidding.
So the question is, which of these is right now a faithful, active
Oh,
member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
okay.
Okay, we have Claire McCaskill, who is a Democrat from Missouri,
Okay.
Tom Udall, who's a Democrat from New Mexico,
Okay.
and Kirsten Sinema, I don't know,
It's cinema.
from Kirsten Sinema, a Democrat from Arizona.
I don't know, but since Arizona has more members of our church than these other states, I'm going to go with Kirsten Cinema.
That is such a good guess because she
Thank
did
you.
go to BYU and
Oh,
married a guy from BYU,
oh,
but she has since left the church and her husband and no
Matt,
longer
that was a
identifies.
trick question.
I know. So it's actually Tom Udall from New Mexico,
Okay.
active member of the church his whole life and an active member of the Democratic Party his whole life. He's currently serving as an ambassador for the Joe Biden administration in some, I don't know, beautiful, wonderful place to live. I don't know which one it is.
Well, good for you, Brother Udall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, we'll have you on the podcast sometime,
Yeah.
Mr. Udall.
Yeah. Call him Brother, Matt.
When
Brother
I
Udall.
reach out, I'm like, Brother Udall. He's like,
Yeah.
he's got to be my ministering brother. I have to respond to this.
Okay. It is time for big deal, little deal, no deal. And I'm going to go
No deal.
first. Yeah. I'm going to go first with reading you the headline. Okay.
Okay.
Here it is. It's from the Salt Lake Tribune, and it
Okay.
is about Tim Ballard. You remember who Tim Ballard is, right?
I do.
Okay, here's the headline.
Brother
Tim,
Ballard. Brother Ballard to you.
rather, Tim Ballard sues women who accused him of sexual assault. He sues them back for defamation. Big deal, little deal, no deal. 3, 2, 1.
No deal.
Big deal.
No deal.
How is this no deal? This is a huge story, Matt.
Is it? Listen,
Yes.
everybody who gets accused of sexual assault countersues for defamation. Always.
Okay, it's a year later. Do they always take a year to do it?
A year to file the whatever?
Countersuit?
Sure. Sure, why not?
I just think it's a big deal that first of all, I feel like Tim Ballard wants nothing more than to continue to be in the news, which is
Mm,
surprising to me because all of the stories about him just make him seem worse and worse and worse. But he seems to want to continue to be in the news. He seems to want to be able to clear his name, which from the evidence that I've seen, it doesn't seem likely that he's going to clear his name. What it seems to me is that it's harmful and hurtful to respond in this way by suing the women and saying, what you're accusing me of isn't true. And in fact, you owe me money.
yeah.
Just, but
Yeah.
I do want to read you, I just want to read you this one line from the article. Okay.
Okay.
Ballard's attorneys assert that all of the allegations against him are false. And in many instances, the women are retaliating because they fell in love with him and he spurned
Oh.
their advances.
Oh, of course. That makes a lot of
That
sense.
is so rude. They're
Yeah.
only suing me because they fell in love with me. This guy has an ego the size of his ego. Like, it's,
Are
yeah.
you telling me your husband's not this way? That
Listen, I'm just saying that, like, he just seems to want so much attention. And for
Mhm.
those who don't know, he is the founder of Operation Underground Railroad. Um,
How could anybody not know Tim Ballard at this point? Everybody knows who Tim Ballard is.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well,
guess what? He wants it to stay that way.
I
All he
know.
wants, and I don't think it's too much to ask, all he wants is that when he dies, there's a statue of him next to Brigham Young in the middle of Salt Lake City. I don't know that
Okay.
that's too much to ask. I'm sure that's all he's looking for.
Okay. Okay. Sure, Matt. Here's my problem. I do feel like there is like a little portion of the church members who are on Team Tim Ballard,
For
who
sure.
feel like he's being dragged through the mud and that he's without blame and that, you know, I just feel like there's people who are on his team. And hey, that's fine. Everybody needs people on their team. That's fine. But I'm
Yeah.
not one of them. And I think it's atrocious to to sue these women back. That's all I think.
But I want to ask you this. Were you ever a big Tim Ballard fan?
I did not know who Tim Ballard was specifically, but I was an Operation Underground Railroad fan, right? Like
Yeah.
I believed in the work that they were doing. I at least approved in it. I mean, I feel like I probably donated to them at some point. Um
Yeah.
so I
And we
was
know
a fan of them. I didn't know who Tim Ballard specifically was, so no.
And we also know that M. Russell Ballard at one point was a little bit enamored with Tim Ballard.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me that people still are enamored with the guy, right? He's probably charismatic, he probably makes people feel like he's a trustworthy, good person. So
Yeah.
it never surprises me when there are people like after accusations that kind of still like and support somebody just because the
But
things
there's
that
so much evidence
I know,
against him. Yeah,
I
okay.
know.
Okay.
Okay, here's my topic. Stand to Reason University now has an online module about how to engage with Latter day Saints. Is that
Hmm.
a big deal, little deal, or no deal? Three, two, one. Big
Little
deal.
deal. Now, I've never heard of Stand to Reason University,
Yeah, well, that's why I say it's a
comma.
big. Well, it's
Oh,
a big
okay.
deal because now they actually care about us, right? They're a group that tries to, like, they're evangelical, preach the Bible sort of people. And so
Okay.
the fact that they say, here's how you can talk to your Latter day Saint friends, to me, that's kind of a big deal. But
Okay.
the bigger
How do
deal is that I'm trying to understand how the word university got so easily cheapened. Like, everybody has a university now, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, that word has a very specific connotation." Like, I don't think
Yeah.
Stand to Reason University has a graduate program, so why did they get
Okay.
to say they're a university? It's like,
Okay.
we're just letting people use that phrase willy-nilly for anything they want. This is wrong, Melissa. We need to
Okay.
defend
I'm
the
sorry.
appropriate use of
I
words.
didn't know that this was the hill we were standing on. I agree with you. I was hoping maybe we would talk about how you are supposed to engage with Latter-day Saints. Like,
No, no, I don't care. It's just a missionary tool for them.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there is a lot of talk lately about civic dialogue and how to engage with people that we disagree with. And so, yeah, sure, treat us like regular humans. Is that the answer? Like, engage with us as you would anybody? Is that right?
I'm not doing that topic, Melissa. I'm going to
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Wikipedia.
Back to university.
A
Could you please
university
tell me the definition of university?
is an institution of higher education and
Uh-huh.
research which awards academic degrees in several academic disciplines. Stop using the word university wrong.
Okay. Okay.
Trump University, Stand to Reason University. Everybody's got a university now. Prager
Okay.
University. Stop
Okay.
using the word wrong.
Okay. Are you done? You over?
Yeah,
Can we
yeah.
move on? Okay. Okay. Here's
We
my
should
article.
wait, wait. We should
Matt, you
change.
said you were done.
We should change. We should start something called This Week in Mormon University. Okay, now
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay, thanks. I don't want to do my story anymore. You do your next one.
Okay, this one's two stories, right? So
Okay.
these prominent Latter day Saints believe it is God's command, thou shalt not vote for Donald Trump.
Oh,
Related, Trump announces Latter day Saints coalition in push for battleground voters. Is this a big
okay.
deal, little deal, or no deal? Three, two, one. No
Big
deal.
deal.
No
Yeah,
deal.
I read you wrong. I thought you were going to say this is a big deal simply because everybody wants to talk about the election.
Oh, I don't want to talk about the election.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, so, okay, if you look at it and you say the battleground states are Nevada and Arizona, there
Mhm.
are, if you're a conservative, right, members of the church in those states tend to be conservative. So, no deal at all that Trump is going to try and mobilize members of our church in Nevada and Arizona.
Do you think he's using the university to learn how to do that?
Very good point. That's
Thank
a
you.
good question I hadn't thought about.
Thank
I'll
you.
get back to you on that. I
Okay.
don't think he's actually trying to mobilize members of our church in Idaho or Utah, where it doesn't matter, right? So,
Okay.
and then the fact that there are prominent members of our church who are anti-Trump. We just talked about a Democrat senator who's a member of our church. Of course, there are
Right.
members of our church that don't like
Right.
Trump.
We also interviewed Dang it, I can't think of his name now. But the person who's in charge of Harris Walls,
Oh yeah,
LDS Saints for Harris Walls. Am
yeah,
I
that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, of
Um,
course there are members of our church that don't like
yes.
Trump.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why to me
But
this is
don't
no
you think
deal.
it's interesting to say in the name of our religion, you should not vote for him? Like, as a
Mhm.
religious principle,
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah, that
interesting.
feels wrong to do. I
Right, it
mean,
does to me too.
yeah, that's true. That's a little bit too far.
Okay, okay.
Especially because the church is really clear about, like, that they haven't taken a stand. So if the church isn't gonna take a stand on it, then, like,
Mhm.
why should I tell people what the church's stance is?
Yeah. Well, you can, Matt. You can. Okay.
So as a political scientist, like every 4 years, news people actually care about my opinion on politics and stuff, right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
early on, I would do all kinds of interviews with like all the national news outlets because especially when Mitt Romney was running, they would
Uh-huh.
be like, "Hey, tell us about Mormons and politics." Or even last election, they'd be like, "Hey, we're trying to understand members of your church in Arizona and what they're going to do." And so, they would call me and I would just get so excited to do interviews with them. But now I'm just sort of like, who cares? Like seriously? Our
Yeah.
church our church is not going to be the tipping point one way or the other, and so I don't want to talk to you about this.
Wow, you're getting old. You're kinda, like, grumpy and fuddy-duddy.
I'm sorry, Melissa.
Try to gather some excitement for my next article,
Okay,
okay?
okay, yeah.
Okay. Alright. Due to embracing feminism, Gen Z women, or sometimes we call them Zoomers. So,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
oh, that's good for me
Gen
to know.
Gen Z women are dropping out of religion,
Uh-huh.
but ramping up in politics. Big deal, little deal, no deal. 3, 2, 1.
Big deal.
Little deal. Okay,
No, it's a
good.
big deal.
Yeah. So basically, this is from Jana Reese. We love Jana Reese.
Mhm,
Um, so basically, she's just looking at a lot of statistics, and the overarching idea is that women are becoming less religious and more political.
mhm.
On the other hand, men are becoming less political. So, and this is just in the younger generation, in the Gen Z generation. The reason for that, she says, is because women have religious issues that are in conflict with their political issues. So,
Yeah.
oftentimes, religion leans conservative when you think about things like abortion or LGBTQ or other issues like that. And since the Gen Z women don't feel conservative politically on those issues, they're leaving religion, but they're becoming more politically active.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big
Um,
deal.
I think it's a big deal too. I think it's a big deal specifically because it's women. And I do think it's interesting that men are becoming less political. I think it's interesting.
Men are becoming less political because the issues don't speak to them,
Right.
right? So when the issue is abortion or let's just say like reproductive rights,
Hmm.
or the issue is equality, right? Gender
Right.
equality, that's
Yeah.
going to speak to young women, and
Hmm.
that doesn't speak to young men. And so they're like, who cares? The
Okay.
the issues don't matter to me, so I don't care about politics. But for the young women, they're like, this matters a lot. I
Hmm.
think I think that it's going to shape. The reason I say it's a big deal is because the young people are the future of the country,
Right.
and the party coalitions, they either adapt and reflect the new generation, or the
Hmm.
parties go away and die. And
Hmm.
so the fact that the Zoomer women are so different politically than men, that suggests like really changing political landscape in the future and a different religious landscape in the future. Because in my worldview, women have always been more righteous than men. And women are the ones pulling men to church, and women are the ones sort of being like, hey, we need this in our lives. And it would be very interesting in the future if women say, I don't need church,
Hmm.
because I don't see the men being like, well, we do need church, honey. We do have to go. I
Hmm.
want to miss this football game and sit in sacrament meeting.
Yeah, that's
It's,
interesting.
yeah,
But do you think that politics is replacing religion? Like, I
for
don't
a
need
lot of people.
religion because
Yeah.
politics answers that same need. I
It
have a
can.
voice. I have a community, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it definitely does for some people. That's something that's being studied because because millennials and Gen Z are so different about everything than our generation. They
Yeah.
don't trust institutions. They use social media and all of this stuff to create community in ways that we didn't.
Mhm.
So a lot of the things that religion used to provide, you don't need that anymore from religion. So there's big questions like, what will religion and politics look like in the future? And
Mhm.
so that's why I think it's a big deal, like that this is happening.
Yeah, but what it says to me is that when we are teaching, in church, when we're teaching young people, it really needs to be not based on doctrine so much as it needs to be based on testimony and relationship with a savior, right? Like
Yeah.
we've done a lot of just like teaching, here's the rules of our religion, but we haven't done enough. Here's why it's important because of Jesus, like, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Any,
Yeah, I do. So that's something I found very interesting about General Conference
go on.
because you had a number of talks in General Conference that were very specific, like connect yourself to Jesus, connect yourself to, you don't need to have the authority of the priesthood given to you to have access to the power of the priesthood in your life.
Hmm.
Lots of these talks about like linking yourself to Jesus. And then you'd get these really kind of hardcore follow the rules talks and these really sort of like, here
Yeah.
are some rules that you're not following as well as you should.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Patrick Kieran, is that his name? The
Yeah.
newest apostle? I just
Uh-huh.
want to make sure I was saying it right. His talk was interesting too. I thought it probably spoke to youth in a unique way because he was talking about how there's a lot of situations in our life that make it hard to feel the spirit. Things like sometimes like mental health issues, but other things too, like loneliness. But yeah, and he talked about how you need to learn to feel the spirit, and that maybe in those deep, dark places, that's actually the place where Christ will come and reach you. And I hadn't heard it talked about in those terms. And I thought it was really a good way to talk to the younger generation in terms that they understand. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good way. I think we're going to need to pivot the way that we teach these things, I guess.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I don't remember exactly who it was. Somebody had a talk, maybe it was President Oaks, that sort of talked about how what the church emphasizes over time changes. The
Mm-hmm.
doctrine doesn't change, but different emphases get put into place over time. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that's kind of a nice way to think about it. Like when we were young, there was definitely an emphasis on the rules and
Yeah.
follow the rules. And our parents really believed like if you teach your kids to follow the rules, they will never leave the church. And so
Yeah.
they were like, let's do the rules. And then I think a lot of them are like, wait a minute, maybe
That
it
didn't
wasn't the rule.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. My story is the church reiterates positions on political neutrality, civil discourse, and abortion. Is that a big deal, little deal, no deal? Three, two, one. No
Big
deal.
deal.
Mm.
I say it's a big deal because I think a lot of people really thought that the church would come out in general conference and be more specific about what you need to do in your voting life. People really
Oh,
thought that,
okay.
and
Well,
they
so I
really
think
didn't.
no, they didn't. And I
Yeah.
think I said no deal basically for that same reason that they're just
Okay.
reiterating things that they've said before and they
Okay.
haven't said anything new. So it could be a big deal because they said nothing new, or it could be a no deal because they've said nothing new.
Can I ask what they said about abortion specifically?
They just point us to the church policy that says that
Mhm.
having an abortion for elective reasons is wrong, or I don't know if it says sinful, but it says the church believes in the sanctity of human life, and so we oppose abortions for like just for like elective abortions. But there are
Mhm.
reasons when a person might choose to get an abortion. Even in these situations, it's a serious decision, and it should be prayerfully considered. But it's
But they
life of the
basically
mother.
said, "Just look at the handbook."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They
Yeah.
didn't say anything about, yeah,
Okay, good.
legislating it or anything.
Perfect. Okay, here's our last one.
Okay.
The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives has been renewed for season 2. Big deal, little deal, no deal. 3, 2, 1.
Big
Big
deal.
deal.
Big
Wow,
deal.
we agree. Now, Matt,
Mhm.
have you watched any of it?
No, I don't have Hulu.
Okay, well, guess what I did?
What?
I switched to Hulu and I
Oh.
watched the whole entire season 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So?
Well, I do have some thoughts, okay? First of
Uh-huh.
all, this is a big deal because everybody, not just in Utah, but in the actual world, is talking about this show. It has
I
been
know.
wildly successful. It's
Yeah.
being renewed. I think it's one of Hulu's biggest shows of the year. So I think second
Wow.
biggest. So it's a big deal because people are talking about it. It's a big deal because everybody wants to talk about dirty soda because they
I
drink a
know.
lot of dirty soda on it. Here's my thoughts after watching it. First of all, it's not a reality show. Okay.
What?
Yeah.
I am shocked.
It's not a reality show. I
Wow.
did the first couple of shows, I was like, this is such a nightmare, right? Like, this is so much just like what I would call clickbait, but on TV, but just, just trying to push buttons and make it juicy. But I will say that there was an evolution of the main character, whose name I can't recall right now, but she's the big TikTok star.
Is it
The
Ben
one who got
Affleck's
arrested.
cousin?
Nope, but she's on the
Oh.
show.
Oh, okay.
No, the main one, the one who got arrested for spousal abuse. And
Oh
anyways,
my.
there's an
Is it Whitney Levitt?
no, it's not Whitney Levitt.
Okay.
It's I can't remember her name.
I've
Anyways,
I've
thank you.
exhausted my list of
Yeah.
possible names.
Thank you. There's an evolution of her throughout the show where I really came to enjoy her and have empathy for her. She's a person who I would say is a normal Latter day Saint. She's been in and out of activity. She's definitely made a lot of choices in her life that are not in line with the teachings of the gospel. But at the same time, she wants to be associated as a member of the church. Her family is LDS. She wants to go to church sometimes. She wants her baby to have a blessing. She has belief and ties to the church, but also she admits that she doesn't follow all of its teachings and she doesn't live all of its rules. However, she sees herself as a Mormon, and I just like that throughout the season we see her grappling with um how these choices that I made, what the consequences of those are. And she fully admits that the consequences are hers because she made bad choices and she wants to do better. And I just think it's a really beautiful evolution. And is she now like going to follow all the rules? No, she's not. But I think this is a pretty typical story for especially Utah Mormons, that even if they're not living all the church's teachings, they still want to be associated with it.
I
Yeah.
like it. Now I'm going to guess more names.
Okay, please do.
Michaela Matthews,
No.
Taylor Frankie Paul.
Yes, Taylor Frankie Paul.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Anyways, it's trash TV. It is not uplifting or beautiful in any way. There's a lot of language. There's a lot of, I don't know, just people
Wait,
treating each other badly. It's
Mormon
trash.
wives swear? They say swear words on the show?
So much swearing. Yeah.
Really?
So much swearing, so much inappropriate, let's see, sexual decisions,
Oh.
a lot
Did you
of
watch the Real
drinking.
Housewives of Salt Lake?
I didn't.
Oh,
No.
okay. So you
No.
cannot compare and contrast.
I'm guessing it's very similar. I guess the difference is that I don't know that the Real Housewives claim to be connected to the church. All of these women are like, yes, we're Mormons. Some of us are active, some of us are not active. But, they say things like, I don't wear my garments every day. I drink coffee,
Mhm.
but I'm still active. Like they
Mhm.
still hold themselves as being active, at least some of them. Anyways,
I
that's
wanna
my
ask you a
take.
different question. Is there okay, so we've talked before about the Stanley Cup and, like, there's,
Mhm.
this
I'm sorry.
this caricature of, like there's, like, this caricature of certain kinds of mothers
Yes.
that may or may not be directly associated with the church, and my
Okay.
question is, the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, is there something specifically Mormon that makes people wanna watch it? Or could you take
Mm,
the Mormon part out of it and it's just women like, what I'm trying to
no.
figure out, is it a Mormon thing? Is it a
Yes.
Utah culture thing? Or is it something that you could just do anywhere?
Hmm. I think it is a Mormon thing. All of these women definitely live up to the stereotypes of, having fake, I will say, bodies, right?
Mhm.
Like they do things like get liposuction and get implants. Their hair is a certain way for sure. Their hair is all very long, Utah hair. Yes, they do the dirty soda drinking, but I think what's different about this is they also do things like have a baby blessing and grapple with how
Oh,
do we decide who we're going to invite to this baby blessing, right?
uh-huh. So, okay.
Um, so
Yep.
so there's definitely Mormon traditions and things that are going on and being talked about. Um, Specifically, I mean, I think that's yeah, you have to have the name Mormon in it for that. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
am gonna say then that I think that this could be a good missionary tool. It's a weird thing to
Okay.
say, but it really
Okay.
could. Like,
Yeah.
there are people I know that joined the church because they went to the Book of Mormon musical,
Mhm.
and there was an ad for the Book of Mormon at the musical, and they're like, I'm going to read that book, and
Hmm.
then we're join the church. Like, these
Interesting.
things, as odd as they might seem, really can lead people. They'd be like, wow, a baby blessing. I wonder what that is. And then just meet with the missionaries, and then they like, it could be a good
Interesting.
missionary tool. It's weird to say.
Yeah, it is weird to say. I just think it does give us a broad picture of what a Mormon is. And especially I think in this younger generation, this is how they think, right? A Mormon does not have to be one way. You don't have to live every commandment to say you're active, right?
Mhm.
And that is really the way that the church is changing. And and yeah, this
So, is Whitney Levitt's husband Connor, is he gay? I don't know if you could if you're able to figure that out.
is that the rumor? Okay,
She
let
said
me
on
look
a
up who Whitney is. Hold on just a minute. Okay,
her
Whitney.
husband has a beard, and he changed his
Okay.
hair color a couple
He's the
times in the
one
show.
who had a pornography problem.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I
People
don't.
thought he was gay for some reason, but it turns out he's not gay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think that after watching season one.
Oh.
I know these women are getting a lot of attention on social media outside of
Oh,
the show too.
I'm so
Um,
jealous of them. Wouldn't that be nice to
yeah.
have everybody in your business?
Yeah. Okay. I do want to say one more time. It's very trashy TV. There's a lot of
Okay.
fighting, a lot of drama, a lot of made up drama.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That's
Okay.
the best kind of TV, in my
Oh, do you think
opinion.
so? Okay. Okay.
I like
Sounds good. Okay.
if I ever get Hulu, I'm checking it out.
Great. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go this week in Mormon history.
Yes, history. It's as good as traveling Europe. Go on, Matt.
125 125 years ago this week, Apostle Rudger Clawson wrote, President Snow has said that second anointings should be given to faithful brethren. It is not necessary, he said, to wait until they are ready to drop into their graves.
What is this? I've only heard of second anointings a couple of times. Was it a common practice back then?
So I don't think this is something nobody knows about. Like, all I really
Okay.
know about it, like, is John Delinn's podcast. He'll have these people on talking about getting their second anointing. But in the Book of Mormon, it talks about having your calling and election made sure. Maybe it's
Okay.
more in the Doctrine and Covenants. But a second anointing is an ordinance where you have your calling and election made sure. And for most people, it's like, according to the scriptures, Jesus Christ comes to you, and then you receive this ordinance directly from him. But apparently, I don't know, church leaders have thought it important to perform a second anointing ordinance. The only reason I bring it up is because it's an ordinance that we don't ever hear anything about. And
Yeah,
so
but you're going to drop in your grave before it happens. And President Snow said that's not okay.
you don't have to wait that long. You could have it happen before you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, what's with the name Rudger Clawson? Rudger?
I don't
Let's bring
I
back Rudger. Bring it back. Feels
All right.
very Mormon.
All right.
Feels
Hey,
very
listen,
Mormon.
children of mine, when you have your own kids, Rutger's a good name. We
It's
like it.
open. We're bringing it back. Okay.
75 years ago, 1949, General
Okay.
Conference was broadcast on television for the first time.
Really? Huh.
I have a sense that we're only a couple of years away from it being broadcast on television for the last time. I mean, like,
Good.
nobody's watching this.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, now this one's just this is a very fascinating story I found. I
Okay.
put a link to the YouTube. There is a YouTube video where you can watch this. Okay, I'm going to explain it. So 40
Okay.
years ago, 1984,
Okay.
Elder Ronald E. Pullman, he's a member of the Quorum of the 70. He gives a general conference talk stressing the need of central headquarters to adapt its programs to the cultural diversity of the international church rather than requiring diverse peoples to conform to Utah Mormon culture.
It
He is
doesn't seem like it could have happened that long ago.
He is required to return to the empty Salt Lake Tabernacle to re-deliver a censored version of the talk for videotaping, which includes pre-recorded track of audience coughs, but deletes his endorsement of cultural diversity and decentralization.
No way.
He's not allowed to speak again in General Conference for 4 more years.
No way.
So if you follow this link, there's a YouTube video that shows his original talk and his other talk side by side, and you can see what he said the first time and what he said the second time, and then what was changed and what was deleted and stuff like that.
That is crazy.
And that they would pre-record coughs and things, right, to make it sound
Like
like he's giving it live when he's not giving it live.
40 years ago. It is crazy how much the culture of our church has changed in 40 years. That's
But
insane.
you know what? I don't know exactly how they do it now. Maybe some of our listeners who know can write in and let us know. But I remember distinctly Elder Anderson was not a member of the Quorum of the 12 at the time, and he
Okay.
gave a talk, and he said something like the power of God versus the power of Satan is, he's like, the power of Satan is like a bunch of nursery kids with squirt guns trying to take over the church. And then he's like, but the power of God is so much more than that. And when I
Huh.
read the talk afterwards in the ensign, all that part was taken out, right? It
Oh,
was just like,
really?
uh-huh. But
Huh.
you could still at the time go back to the original DVD and see what he had originally said. But
Uh-huh.
I do think that they have them pre-record talks, so that they can like change the video if they need to change the video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just think it's interesting that he said, like, the church doesn't need to conform, or yeah, doesn't need to conform to Utah Mormon culture. And they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yes, it does. Yes, it
I know.
does. That
I
is,
know.
that is not something anybody would say these days. So yeah, interesting.
Well, they have a different word for it, right? It's not Utah more. It's like the I don't know. But yeah. Hey, listener, we would like to remind you that you can subscribe to Patreon and get bonus content for just a few dollars a month. And you can subscribe to our social media channels on Facebook and Twitter. We think that you should check out the interviews that we've been doing. The one that we posted most recently with Jason Wade was hilarious. That
Yeah, that
guy's
was
just
fun.
full of energy.
Yeah.
Jody Moore was our guest recently.
Hmm.
I didn't know anything about Jody Moore, and I really, really like her. She really
Yeah.
made me feel like she's a great person.
She is a great person. And we've recorded a couple more that will drop in the coming weeks. So yeah, look forward to those.
Hmm. If you have any feedback, you can send us an email to contact@thisweekinmormons.com. You're welcome to comment on our YouTube page because we look at those comments and read them sometimes. And we would just like to thank you for listening to the original Mormon / Latter-day
This
Saint
week in Mormons. Keep talking.
news
The
podcast.
original Mormon news podcast. Have a good one.